Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Raja, for having me and for allowing me to present. As you noted, this presentation would have been very different in the pre-COVID world, and yes, there certainly would have been samples for you to enjoy as we went along. Chocolate Works was established in 2015. We are an experiential chocolate store specializing in gourmet Belgian chocolate, parties, events, and corporate gifting. A little bit about our story. My husband and my two daughters and my parents moved to the Lehigh Valley in 2004. I, at the time, was with Bed Bath & Beyond, taking a promotion in Union, New Jersey. At that time, we decided for Pat to stay home and watch our girls. In 2004, there weren't very many dads doing that. So it was interesting, the social reaction to that. But Pat stayed home, took care of our young daughters, took care of my parents, and throughout from 2005 to 2015, we were very active in our community with our kids, community activities, both in nonprofit. I was a vice president for the Wilson Area Partners in Education Foundation. Pat ended up the last 3 years of our youngest daughter's high school career being the director of the Links Family Center in Wilson, which provided a food pantry, fitness center, and thrift shop. Provided meals for children through the backpack program for children who are food insecure. In 2015, as our youngest daughter was graduating from high school, we wanted to figure out what was next. Was he going to go back into corporate America, or were we going to open a business that we had discussed for many years, everything from a coffee shop to a bed and breakfast. So from there, Pat, we dug in and we started doing some research and landed on a chocolate business through a franchise at the time. And that franchise opportunity, it was a small franchise based in Long Island. It had started in 2012, so it was fairly new. And we found the real estate, did all the things, figured out how to start a business, and just took the leap. I'll go through kind of what our revenue model is, as Raja mentioned, but just to finish our story out, I was laid off in 2019 from Bed Bath & Beyond after 22 years, jarring for a lot of reasons, but gave me a unique opportunity to participate in the business 100% of the time, because Pat had really been doing most of it and I was evening and weekends. In 2020, the franchise dissolved. We had chosen this franchise because it was more entrepreneurial, is what I'll say. That ended up translating into no support. All the things that you get from the benefits of a franchise, the economies of scale, et cetera, dwindled away over the last 4 years. And ultimately, the franchise dissolved and became a licensing deal. And then, as we all know, shortly after that, the COVID-19 crisis hit. So where we started, the revenue streams for Chocolate Works were retail sales. So we have a 2,000 square foot location in the Madison Farm Shopping Center in Easton, ShopRite Shopping Center. So 2,000 square foot facility. Most of the floor set is retail space. However, we also have a back room for birthday parties and events, and then we also did corporate gifting. So first year we were just kind of figuring it out. We were not raised in chocolate, so we were learning chocolate along the way. Getting a lot of support from our warehouse at the time for product. So I would say at that time they were facilitating 100% of the product, and now I would say they are down to 10% of the product. So 90% of things are made in our store. The things that made us unique and not like the other gourmet chocolate businesses in the Valley, because there's a lot of them, there's an odd amount of gourmet chocolate in the Valley, were some of the things that we did, such as, again, the birthday parties. experiential chocolate store, meaning you can come in and make chocolate. So our birthday parties were around the idea of children coming in, making molds, so taking molds, getting to add the chocolate to it, getting to decorate it with colored chocolate, getting to use what we call our I Love Lucy machine, which is an enrobing machine, and getting to make a treat on that. Really fabulous party host, high touch customer service. We have my background with Bed Bath. I was the director of customer experience, and Pat came from a retail travel background. So we felt really strongly about that strong customer interaction, really developing relationships with our community. So you can come in and make chocolate anytime. You can come in, dip things in chocolate. We custom make endless things, and that leads to the corporate gifting. And that image that you see on the corporate gifting logo is the sugar paper, where we can actually take your logo and image and put it on chocolate. So, you know, we've kind of gone along the, you know, this presentation would be very different in the pre-COVID world, but very quickly we kind of set off and we're figuring it out. You know, we chose a shopping center that had a lot of traffic, learned a lot of things along the way, learned about holidays and the differences of Valentine's Day, for instance, falling on a weekend where partners have to wake up with their gifts versus a weekday where partners can pick up things throughout the day at lunch and at dinner and go home with the gift. So our first year, Valentine's Day, for instance, was on a Sunday. Business was good that day, and that's what I planned for the following year, but Valentine's Day fell on a Tuesday, and we did a 200% increase in sales on that one day because of the difference in foot traffic and when the gifting actually occurs. So, yeah, you know, the business was fine. We were good. I had a stable job. I had health care. We were really kind of moving along. As the business grew and as the franchise kind of fell away, we had to develop additional revenue streams. So retail sales, we kind of changed some of our product. Some of the things that make us unique from a retail sales side, the custom side, is we do what's called talking chocolate, where we actually write on chocolate. We also have a lot of molds in the store. And then we also do things like chocolate dipped wine bottles. So you bring us the bottle of wine, we dip it in chocolate, and then we customize the messaging: happy anniversary, congratulations, happy birthday, whatever the thing is that you want to celebrate. So that was retail sales. Parties and events grew. We started doing networking events in the store. We started holding corporate parties in the store. We started doing adult parties where we would do painting parties, etc. Meaning, if you think painting with a twist, but instead of painting on a canvas, you're using chocolate and you're painting on a license plate size piece of chocolate, actual scenes. You know, led by an instructor, you got to bring wine, we gave you the chocolate. So those really started to grow. The corporate gifting business continued to grow as people received our gifts. They started calling us and then buying gifts from us for their corporate customers. We added and licensed with fruit bouquets and Sherry's Berries, and really kind of kept saying yes. Like, whatever the revenue stream that we could add to our business was, we just kept saying yes and kept adding it and figuring it out along the way. We're pretty scrappy. We wanted to keep building the business and keep moving forward. When COVID-19 hit, all of those revenue streams kind of fell away, and it became retail sales and fruit bouquets and Sherry's Berries. Now, the thing that's important here is when COVID hit, we had to really step back and say, one, we had to figure it out. What could we do? We're a chocolate store. How could we possibly be an essential business? But the reality is, from a health department standpoint, we're listed as a restaurant, and sugar and confection manufacturing was on the list of allowed businesses. So we very cautiously continued our business. We shut down the storefront, we laid off our team, So now it was just me and Pat. Our daughters, who are now 20, almost 27 and 23, were laid off from their jobs. Our oldest was on with the national tour on the roof and had her apartment work sublet, so she had to come home. She and her boyfriend were homeless essentially. But what that allowed was for them to help. Now we were coming into Easter. Now what's important to know about the chocolate business really is a chocolate season. So from Christmas to Mother's Day is chocolate season. We have Christmas, we have Valentine's Day, we have Easter, we have Mother's Day, and the revenue that we make in that time frame takes us through the summer months leading into the fall. We weren't going to have the potential of Easter and Mother's Day. What that meant for our viability was terrifying. So what were we going to do? So we figured out we could do takeout, curbside pickup, delivery, shipping, Uber Eats and Grubhub, which we had already added to our format. Our community really rallied around us. Sorry. We were very lucky. We had friends and family that really stepped up and wanted to see us succeed. Raj, I'm so sorry.
Not a problem. Don't worry about it. You're doing great.
Take a moment.
Take your time.
Nothing to be sorry about, Kelly.
Yeah. Take your time.
It was really more than we could have asked for. So they stepped up, really got the word out. Our social media was pretty active, but they started sharing and really making sure that people knew that we were still open and available. So what we did is we reimagined the business. So what could we do? How do you take an experiential shop, a shop that is dedicated to customers coming in and experiencing chocolate firsthand? How do we get that to be able to go home? So we came up with these take-home kits. So instead of you coming in and making the chocolate, we pre-made the molds, which you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner. We got pallets, which we already had, but we ordered more. We ordered paintbrushes so that you could buy the kits and take them home and have projects. Parents were desperate for things to do with their kids. So what you see is our take-home, take-and-make painting kit. You see our take-and-make pretzel pizza kit. Pretzel pizzas are also a very popular item in the store. So again, you could take it home and make it. And then our candy bar making kit. We ultimately added our sushi kit, candy sushi. And these were really popular and really took off very quickly. And we were thrilled. From there, we then were like, okay, Mother's Day is like, I mean, Easter is right here. What are we going to do? So we specifically on the take and make painting kits, we did bunnies. Easter then became, we used to have an Easter basket making event. Obviously, you can see the pre-COVID Easter Bunny interaction and the post-COVID Easter Bunny interaction. So the week of Easter, we had the Easter Bunny out. We had the Easter Bunny out, and again, the community was thrilled because so many parents. I'm so sorry, you guys.
No problem. Don't worry about it. You're doing great.
No idea why I'm so emotional about this. So they were very appreciative that we had the Easter Bunny because so many of their kids were going to miss that milestone. And then Mother's Day, also we used to do a family event where you would come in with mom. We had generations of moms that would come in and they would do these flower garden kits. So we again figured out how to make the kit a take and make it project that you could still do at home. So we have just continued thinking of ways to connect with our customer, to take our in-store experience and make it an at-home experience. Now we're trying to figure out what to do with birthday parties. So the next project is figuring out Zoom birthday parties, meaning we would still host, we would drop off all the kits to the families, and the parents would still have to help with melting the chocolate, but if we still have a host that's entertaining and active with the kids, we think there's viability there because we think it's going to be a while before parents want their kids congregating. But we have to figure out how to maintain that revenue stream. Now, what I should say as a unexpected win from this is the Sherry's Berries and fruit bouquet business has grown in ways that we never could have imagined. So our best month going into this was in December of 19, and we did 93 bouquets. In March, we had seen that our business growing because the impact of florists not being open was people still wanted to celebrate milestones and obviously still acknowledge events such as funerals and passings. So our bouquet business really grew. So in April, we did 180 bouquets and Sherry's Berries deliveries. And then in this month to date, to right now, so this is what, May 13th, we've done 217 fruit bouquets and Sherry's Berries deliveries. So that revenue stream has exploded. We were able 2 weeks ago to bring our team back. Our SBA partner, ISA, has been wonderful and was able to get our PPP loan through. In addition, the SBA is working and making some of the payments. We had to work with our landlord, although they couldn't give us any relief specifically. They were understanding in terms of paying what we could pay. So we've worked with our business partners to get whatever money was available and made sense for us without going into more debt because we weren't willing to do that. And trying to continue to grow our reserves so that we can maintain our business as long as possible. So Mother's Day was much more smooth because we had our team back and it wasn't us just trying to figure it out and react in real time. It felt much more planned. We have just kind of moved forward. So now we have to figure out what's next and how to keep driving our business keep kind of reimagining the business as this goes, as COVID-19 continues. So that's the story of Chocolate Works to date, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, Kelly, that was a great presentation. Thank you so much. And I mean, emotion is part of delivery, and we appreciate you sharing that, with us. We all know, what kind of, tough times that you may be going through. But one thing that's really fascinating from looking from an entrepreneurial perspective is all the pivoting that you had to do, right? When COVID-19 hit, you really, some of the out of the box thinking and creativity wise, it's just astounding. And to see a new business model that you accommodated and how well that has grown probably would not have happened pre-COVID-19. So
True.
that, I think, so we kind of tell people that, tough times are part of running a business. How you handle that probably is what makes a difference. So there's a question. So I'm going to read some questions to you. I'm looking at it. So regarding the kit that you talked about, can those kits be shipped?
Yeah, so funny you say that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to come back so I can get off of sharing. So shipping became a really big thing. Like I said, the friends and family around the country that weren't in our area really wanted to start giving some smiles. So they started shipping platters of chocolate and things and gifts to people. So we absolutely started shipping those. And I learned very quickly how to do logistics and shipping in a way that it's a new skill set for my resume.
That's great. That is wonderful. Now, you also mentioned about the PPP loan that you just got. How long did it take you to go through the process? Because that's a discussion that we're going to have later part of this morning. So
it was actually pretty quick. And again, I mean, listen, the dollars that we needed were not, huge comparatively. But I don't know if it benefited us that we already had an SBA lender that we had a partnership with. So we reached out. He got us the application. We immediately started. We filled it out. Went back and forth a couple times. But it was only a few weeks from the time that we did it, from the time we initiated to the time that the money came in.
Okay. Here's a question from Girish. So are you considering liquor-based chocolate treats, like or a fondue.
Yeah, so the challenge with liquor-based is it requires, Pennsylvania's got some pretty strict laws around it. So that's the way we get around with the wine bottles, because customers bring us the wine, we're not selling it. And the other thing I didn't mention was on the revenue streams, we had really also expanded our off-site and fountain business. So we had chocolate fountain. We had bought an additional chocolate fountain. We were doing off-site events for proms and weddings, and that vertical had really started to run. This year was going to be pretty substantial. So we lost all of our proms and all of our weddings that we had booked for the year.
That's great. You mentioned that you are located in a shopping center right now, right? Shopping mall.
Yeah.
Strip mall, right? So my assumption is that you probably are renting that space. Is that correct?
Correct.
So, a question, was the landlord willing to work with you, or did you guys approach him once COVID-19 hit?
Yeah, so
regarding your rent?
Yeah, so the landlord is based out of New Jersey, and we had already been struggling just a little bit because although the rent was fine, the CAMs were not. They had been going up exorbitantly. And we were really struggling with those. So we spoke to them when this hit, and what they did say was they still had to pay their bills. And so while they weren't officially reducing anything, they were essentially taking what we could pay. So what we decided to do was pay the base rent and forego the CAMs for now.
Okay. So what do you think your business will look like in the next 6 months? We're assuming, right? That this is not going to go away anytime soon, that this will continue for a period of time. So what's your projection?
That's a very good question, and I wish I had a more thoughtful answer. We are just continuing to try and come up with creative ways to stay connected to the customers. What's coming up next is Father's Days and graduation. So we'll be doing a lot of social media around that. People still want to, again, celebrate these milestones. It's more important than ever. So how do we take advantage of people doing these new drive-by parties and activities and make sure that we're present as an option for customers? I don't know, summer's going to be interesting. And again, we're still taking the same theory that we've always taken, which is the revenue that we're gaining now that we stretch out over that summertime period. We also do sell gelato. So people have come back. Starbucks reopened last week. So there's traffic back around, some walking customers and some people who are in the area that hadn't been.
Yeah. Question from Nicole. It's a good question, Nicole. Most of the time we don't understand what that means. So what does CAM mean? So
Common area maintenance expenses. Sometimes it's called triple nets.
Yeah.
So all the costs that go in, your percentage of responsibility for the costs that go into maintaining the center. So snow removal, electricity for the parking lot, maintenance, anything having to do with the common area expenses.
Yeah, and that can run up. That can be quite high sometimes, right?
Yes, shockingly, it was not one of those things that we anticipated well.
Yeah. Kelly, what's your best-selling product?
Okay, listen. So best-selling overall product is going to be our case chocolate. So all of the things that we create, things like peanut butter heavens, which is crunchy peanut butter on a bed of caramel covered in creamy Belgian chocolate, your choice of milk or dark, or sea salted caramel chocolate covered Oreos. But we sell molds. I mentioned the molds. I wanted to show you. So no political statement here, but this is our #1 selling mold by a lot. Like it sells better than any other combination of all of our molds. And it is a Glock 19. And it is because of military, law enforcement, gun enthusiasts.
Right.
But we sell a ridiculous amount of those.
What about social media? Is that part of your, do you all use social media extensively to promote your products?
Yeah, we're on social media, Chocolate Works Lehigh Valley. We're on Facebook, Chocolate Works LV on Instagram. So Pat and I worked with Deb Kalidas Many of you know her. Last year, we did an engagement with her, and she kind of kicked us in the butts and talked about accountability. We were doing Facebook, obviously, and but not as consistently as we should have been. So we now Facebook Live every Saturday. We post almost every day. Coming out of Mother's Day, I haven't gotten caught up for graduation, but that'll go up today. But we try and post every single day and Facebook Live religiously on Saturday mornings.
That is wonderful. Here's a great question, and I think it can also be an idea. You may already be doing it. So Renee has a question. Would selling gifts to corporate leaders for things like virtual meetings be a reasonable or a new kind of revenue stream?
Yes, I think it's an extension of what we're already doing. And one of our corporate customers actually put in a pretty significant order last week for thank you boxes for his front line. So again, he's doing a box that has a business card. He's doing a custom sugar paper application that says thank you, and then it has 3 truffles. So he is going to be giving that out. We did an event with Omnivent entertainment company and did an event for St. Luke's Hospital Network. We went to the campuses. We handed out treats to the staff and there for that. So there's been some activity and some gifts sent to some staffs at nursing homes and stuff. So yes, that's an opportunity to extend our corporate gifting.
And I'm going to read your follow-up question to Renee. I think it's a great one. Kelly, have you thought about doing some classes and run those classes on YouTube and then other types of online channel that can feed directly into your long-term social media strategy?
Yeah, so we've absolutely talked about YouTube. There's another chocolate business that we follow called Hercules that has a bunch of YouTube content, and I'm always stunned by what people will watch. So when I watch some of their content, I'm like, people sit there for an hour and 20 minutes, letting them just kind of amble through. Okay. So yes, we'd absolutely, it's on our radar to do some.
Yeah, I think that can be cool. You can make it, I mean, yeah, you're right. You'll be surprised at what people watch is how much time they spend. And this might be a good time to also introduce that because, folks have time on their hands.
Absolutely.
And they're looking for different things there are different things to engage in. I'm going to read one last, comment to you here, and then we'll move to our second set of presentation. We may run a little bit longer today, 5-10 minutes over, but I don't think you'll mind that. And if there's any additional question for Kelly, you can put that in the chat room. We will also address that later. So Rita, I don't know if you know Rita Guthrie, but Rita runs a public relations firm, and she has volunteered to donate her time to you to work with you in whatever you may need. So you two may want to connect. Actually, that is recorded on the chat session on the side. So for those of you that are joining the 1 Million Cup for the first time, so you will get a recording of this session, and there are chats that you can also download. And we usually send the recording out, but within 24 hours after the session. So Kelly, thank you very much for your time and for your story. That was incredible. And thank you for sharing your story, and we will definitely be there. Come and visit.
Thank you so much. I really
for your at your store. So Girish, I'm going to let you take over from here regarding the second half of the presentation.
Thank you, Raja. We have with us today 2 representatives from financial institutions in the community. Matt Henderson from TD Bank. Their tagline is unexpectedly human. And Matt definitely brings humor into everything he deals in. And secondly, we have Chris Hudak from Rising Tide. It's a provides full range of services for small businesses, counseling, microloans, etc. So let me start off with a topic that's in uppermost in everyone's minds. And Matt and Chris, in this difficult time, when small businesses are looking for assistance from any and every source, what changes have you seen in underwriting rules that you've come across today compared to, let's say, 3, 4, or 6 weeks ago? Either of you, take the lead.
Good morning, everyone. Matt Henderson, as Girish had said, from TD Bank. And before I say anything, Kelly, thank you for sharing today. We are painfully aware of what small businesses are going through right now. And we're doing everything we can help to get these funds distributed to small businesses. Regarding your question, Girish, so this program, the PPP program, is something that I've never seen before, and I don't think, hopefully we'll never see it again. So the underwriting process for something like this is not about your credit worthiness, but it's about your, making sure that these businesses can get through the next few weeks as we deal with what we hope will be the worst part of this pandemic. And essentially, the underwriting guidelines are simply, do you have a payroll? Do you have people that are being paid on a weekly basis? And how can we help? How can we help cover those expenses and some of your utilities and rent and things like that? The underwriting for these types of loans are completely different than anything you've seen before. So with that in mind, there are a number of items that, the banks still do require, which are different than what we usually require for underwriting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does,
Girish.
does industry make a difference, Matt?
I'm sorry?
Does the type of industry that a business owner is coming from or looking for support on, does that make a difference? For instance, restaurants, automotive, maybe dentist places these are businesses that have been impacted severely. And has that been reflected in your underwriting rules or regulations?
So that's a good question. And really, the premises of the loan were simply that, do you have people that you pay on a weekly basis and they have payroll or W-2 income, or you're a sole proprietor and you have Schedule C income. So it's not necessarily, a industry specific loan. I've had incidences where I have a number of healthcare clients who applied for this loan, and they quickly realized after the panic started to go away that they really didn't need to have the loan and are giving the money back. So it's not so specific about, and they were approved for the loan, just like a person who runs a restaurant and has W-2 employees. No, to your question, any business can apply for this if they've got employees, or
Okay.
they, or they have a sole prop or LLC and they take an income from the business.
Chris, do you share Matt's thoughts, or are you from a different perspective dealing with the smaller businesses in your community?
No, I agree that the underwriting has been lessened. Fortunately, there's some grant money out there, so that's made it much, much easier because there's not a whole lot of underwriting associated with that. I guess I'll use the word concern. My concern is going forward, what is underwriting going to look like when we come out of this? The small businesses that have struggled for the last few months, when we ramp up and try to reopen, what is going to be required there? Okay.
When you no longer have the support of guaranteed loans from the government.
Right, when the SBA, right, when that 100% guarantee drops off, when the grant money expires and disappears, and when you're expected to pay it back, what's it going to look like then?
Okay. So that's when perhaps things like cash flow, the traditional criteria like cash flow and personal credit history, business credit history, et cetera, will come back into play.
It will, but the question is, how are they going to look at the last few months? Is that going to be factored in, or will that be excluded and they'll look at how things were beforehand? And I think that's what small business owners have to be wary of right now.
Yeah, so it's a good point, Chris. So how are banks going to look at you if you've got a PPP loan, which has to be paid back over 2 years, and how that affects your existing cash flow when you come to the bank, back to the bank to borrow to maintain your business? So it's a big question mark at this time.
Yeah. So what should businesses be doing? Now, I'm sure that you've had many applications across your desk. And what's the number one, let's say, stumbling block that most businesses have? I can share with you that from my own experience in mentoring businesses in the last 2 months, and those who are seeking the PPP and the EIDL loans, the biggest holdup has been documentation. Small businesses, simple things as perhaps even what's your payroll? How many people do you have? Are they contractors? Are they independents? Are they partners? Do you have an agreement with them? All these things come to the surface, and please share with the group what, from a corporate standpoint, what you've seen and how it's been handled.
So at the end of the day, it pays to be prepared. Unfortunately, what I've seen a lot of is small business owners who may not have the resources that a larger business has and are able to immediately get the documentation that they need to get a loan approved. Simple thing like a Form 940 for 2019. They may not have filed yet or gotten done, or they can't get a hold of their payroll company to get it, or they have to do it themselves and haven't completed it. Unfortunately, the small companies tend to have that a bigger challenge when they have to do it all. So one of the biggest stumbling blocks is just having the information available and knowing what information you need to have.
So what would be some of these things that businesses are lacking, Chris or Matt?
Well, I think you both nailed it. Preparation is the key. Where I work with small businesses, and I think that's part of the issue, is where you're comparing Kelly's business by the SBA's definition to the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay.
Yeah.
By definition, you are the same. And
Right.
there is no way that a business such as Kelly is going to be as prepared or can react as quickly as an organization like the Los Angeles Lakers, who were qualified for the PPP loan. Inevitably, you're behind the 8 ball. I think what small business owners need to do is expect whatever it is, something like this is going to happen again. And now is the time for you to get ready. When you're panicking and your kids are coming home, you can't see your parents, you're worried about a million things. That's not the time to gather the information that's needed. You need to have it ready now while you've got the time, so that you are more competitive, because regardless of politics, government can only put so much money out there, and it's never going to be enough. The counties, the states, everybody, you are going to have to jump on it as quick as possible. So, as Matt mentioned, certain tax returns, both personal and federal tax returns you're going to need. Okay. You're going to need interim statements, because if the next one hits in August, you're going to be expected to need to provide some financials for this year. They're not going to look at last year's numbers. Having that shoebox that you give to your accountant at the end of the year is not going to work for the SBA or for anybody else. Okay. So I think you both nailed it when you said preparation is going to be the key.
things like employee records. I found many people didn't have proper, they were paying whoever was working for the
Sure.
business,
Yeah.
but they had no record of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
sometimes,
one of the
yeah.
requirements, Garish, was either current pay stubs or a Form 941 for the first quarter of 2020 in order to verify that you're paying a payroll right now. And some people just weren't ready to supply that information to the banks, and that made it tough to approve deals.
Okay. I see a few questions here. Let me see if we can run through those. A question from Sam says he applied through Wells Fargo and keeps getting a canned email that his application is being processed. Should he be applying elsewhere, or what else can he do?
Well, I can give a non-biased answer.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as a non-banker, I would highly recommend you work with a more community local bank. You know, Wells Fargo and you know, TD is a great example of that. Yes, they're not the smallest of the small, but Wells Fargo, Bank of America are so large. They got so inundated with applications from all over the country. You know, you're in that queue, and it's going to take rounds and rounds of money if you're down that totem pole till they ever get to you.
Chris, can I just add a comment to that? What just Chris said? I was just reading an article last week, and they were talking about the first round of, I guess, the first tranche of money that they gave out to the small businesses. And I mean, Chris hit it on the head. I think majority of those were given by community banks, or a large percentage was.
Yes, and I can add that with this second tranche of money that's come out, it has not been fully subscribed to yet. So there is money available. And if you want to reapply, as Sam asked, he's asking, do you have any recommendations for a bank other than, of course, TD and Rising Tide?
Chris, are you offering paycheck loans through Rising Tide?
No, we're not. We're not eligible through the SBA to provide those funds. We're assisting people getting their paperwork together,
Okay.
but we're not eligible.
Right.
Because only large CDFIs, and I'm talking a handful of the 1,000 throughout the country, were eligible, and that's part of it. It's not getting down to the small businesses.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. I put on the chat, if you will, for non-banks. I don't have any incentive in it, but I have some know of resources that could be able to help you. So my number's on the chat. Give me a
Okay.
call, and we can walk through it or talk through it. Thank you.
So Sam, to answer your question about Wells Fargo and should you be applying at another bank. So these large banks have secured a lot of these funds, and it may be that they're just so overwhelmed that they haven't gotten to you. It sounds like they're saying your application's been processed, but I'm not exactly sure by your message here. I would hold out hope that you will hear from someone eventually from Wells Fargo this week. But at the same time, you know, you may want to start looking to find a smaller bank that may be able to help you. So, but I wouldn't hold out. I would still hold out hope that they're going to be able to help you.
Yeah, there's two things I learned because I did mine through a small community bank. Two things that my ears perked up that will give anybody assurances. One is, what is my E-Tran number? That tells you that they're uploaded in the SBA system. And two, what's my loan commitment number? And that's fine. Then it's just a matter of how quick can they get to the paperwork and put money in the bank for you and fund you to do that. And unless you get things that I'm learning, unless you have an a DocuSign document to sign a loan agreement, it's not funded. So yeah, if you have to, go somewhere else if you feel you need to. That's what I'm hearing from other banks to say, we're taking round 2 applications because so many people sat still. But 2 numbers, E-Tran and loan commitment And Chris, let me know if I got that, if I'm wrong on that, Chris.
No, I'm sure, and Matt will attest to it. That's what I understand, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Matt, are you with the bank or are you with your CPA?
I'm with TD Bank. Yes, I've,
Yeah, you know those two things then,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
so I've actually probably underwritten about 100 of these loans so far. And communication is the key. And I admit that Wells Fargo has not been a great at communication. I've spoken to several customers of that bank who actually local restaurants as well. And having the same experience over there. I will tell you that one of those people did get funded by them though. So, and I think the difference between them and some other banks around is that, staying in communication and communicating to the client and taking their phone calls and keeping them abreast of where things are is key to being a good partner to your businesses in the local community.
So looking forward, Matt and Chris, things such as knowing or having a little dashboard on your business, knowing what are some accounts receivables, some payables, invoices, your value of any inventory that you have. These are all ongoing business practices that even the smallest business should bring into their routine. Don't you think so?
For sure. Outside of what's going on here, and it's something I was talking to my wife about last night. It amazes me how you've got these businesses that are 50 million and up, and yet they can't survive 3 months of a disaster.
Yeah.
Because they are heavily leveraged. And one of the things that when you have a conversation with a banker should be, what does your cash flow looking? Are you just breaking even? If you are, what steps are you taking to change that moving forward? And it's one of the things that I think a lot of business owners are learning this time. And it's always been said that, you should always have, a banker and accountant at your side to support your business and be your partner in your business. Because if you don't, when something goes wrong, you're not going to know who to turn to, and you may not be able to get the help you're looking for. So I think if anyone's finding out anything, is that having a trusted partner and a relationship with a banker is very important all the time.
So
Yeah.
can I ask Girish, can I ask a follow-up question to that? To both Matt and Chris. One thing that you said earlier caught my attention. Yes, right now I think majority of the small businesses are really hung up into the PPP program and trying to find out how can we get it, how can we be eligible so that we can survive this next 2 months, 3 months. So what you said earlier, Matt, I want to revisit that. So let's say the PPP program is not going to last forever. It's going to go away. I think the money is already, pretty much running out. But what should this business be doing? Because they'll be coming back to you again later down the road, on a traditional loan format or a line of credit format. So what are some things that they should be really focusing on right now? So 6 months to 12 months down the road, when they come to TD Bank for a loan or for a line of credit increase or whatever it might be, the metric there will be very different what you'll be looking at, right? Yeah. So what do you suggest to them? What should they be preparing right now?
That's a good question. So here's the thing. Things are going to be different for the next year and a half to 2 years, in my opinion. So banks are going to have to be, in my opinion, more forgiving on the cash flow issue over the next year, and looking at how well your company is leveraged overall. In other words, how much debt do you have to your net worth of your company versus, okay, this company and this company has been successful before, and over time, So we have to trust in the entrepreneurship of the owner of the business to carry through this. We also are looking at the industry. Is this an industry that the bank wants to stay in, considering how the world has changed? So there's going to be a lot of things happening that we really don't know how it's going to pan out as of yet. But I have a feeling that banks are going to be forced to be forgiving under the circumstances.
Yeah, that's right. I think industry in the future is going to play a key role. I mean, banks and financial institutions are going to think twice about lending to gyms and fitness clubs, nightclubs, bars, entertainment, sports, etc. Because the unknowns are really racking up against us.
Girish, can I have just to go back to Raj's question and what you had just said. I'm working with a karate studio that has found an opportunity through this because they're now offering online classes. And to get back to Raj's question, I think what small business owners need to do is revisit their business plan to make lenders comfortable. And I appreciate Kelly's presentation earlier, and I don't mean to use and abuse her right now, but she was proactive and she reacted to what she needed to do. And I think that's going to be key going forward. You're going to have to, show Matt, show me that should something like this come around again, how are you going to handle it and what have you done? Okay. So when you mention a gym, this karate studio couldn't take students anymore, but they found a way to do it online. Mm-hmm. And he sees growth in that because he had a lot of college students that he would lose throughout the year. And he found out they've reached out to him and said, hey, will you continue these Zoom sessions? It's a revenue stream going forward. So for like Kelly, with what she has changed, what is she going to continue to do going forward, that she's learned that might help grow that business and help, if something like this happens again, I think that'll be key.
Yeah, definitely. Banks and others are going to be asking for a post-COVID business plan rewrite. I mean, if you kept doing the same things as before, that's not going to be much comfort to either you, your suppliers, your customers, your supporters, sponsors, bankers, etc. So it's very important that we appreciate the reality of what's going on and change our ways to the extent we can. And to lead into that, we have a recommendation or a suggestion from Samantha Falcone for a future topic: how to develop relationships with local banks. Sometimes we need a loan. Sometimes we just want to get a line of credit. We're in a steady period. Nothing is urgent, but if you suddenly develop a need, how best to go about this? And we always suggest having a banker or a bookkeeper, an accountant as part of your management team, whether it be once a week or once a month or whatever it is, but somebody who is familiar with your business. Thoughts, comments from Matt or Chris?
Sure, Girish. Yes, it's having a relationship with a banker is very important, but it's also, like any business, there are good bankers and there are bad bankers, and having a relationship with the right banker is important, and it's sometimes tough to find. I think having a good banker is a banker that understands how to be successful, or what a banker is looking for in your business to show that you're successful. So, simple things like sitting down with a tax return or your financial statements and showing you what a banker looks for when they're lending to you, having a knowledge of, how a banker accounts for your business is invaluable to a small business owner. And most small business owners don't have the time or don't take the time to develop that relationship with the right person, or they can't find the right person. Yeah,
Maybe
that's
sometimes
it.
it's too intimidating talking to a banker.
Yeah, well,
That's a scary guy.
well, the funny thing is I got into this business back in 2000. I think it was the year 2000, 2001, and I quickly found that I could really help a lot of people. And if you're that type of person, and you want to help, and that's the type of person you want as your banker, someone who's is going to return your phone calls, takes an interest in your business and helping you, and that's the right banker that you want.
Well, for those, the general advice is that if you can outsource things that you don't like to do, and many of the small business owners, they're so engrossed in their business, developing it, growing it, managing it, that keeping track of accounts is probably the last thing on their mind. But there is software out there. There are other experts who can be brought on to be part of your team. So feel free to reach out to them. I mean, things like QuickBooks and FreshBooks for those who are enthusiastic and want to learn and grab a hold of their business. There's lots of very expensive, in some cases, to less expensive software out there that'll meet your needs. So feel free to reach out to some of us, and we can recommend some software that can help you.
Okay. So why don't we do this? Girish, I don't think is there any more question?
I don't see any. There's some announcements. But yeah, if somebody wanted contact information for Matt, Chris, and myself, I put it on there. Matt and Chris, if you would do the same, please.
Sure.
Yeah, if you can just put that on the chat box, then when this chat goes out, or they can, whoever needs it can write it down. So why don't we do this? And thank you for all the comments. I'm seeing that this has been a really informative session, along with Kelly's presentation. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Rita. So do we want to do a quick announcement? If anyone has an announcement, we can probably take a minute or two. Take about 10-20 seconds to tell us anything that you think that we should know, and then after that, we will end the call. Anyone has an announcement?
I do.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Rita.
I don't want to disappoint you guys by not having an announcement every single week. So you guys know I've been doing Coffee Talk weekly. I'm taking a week off, so we're not meeting tomorrow. So the next Coffee Talk will be next week on Thursday from 11:30 to 1. And if you want me to send you an email invitation, just type my name, Rita, R-I-T-A, in the chat and your email address, and I'll make sure you get invited. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Raja, just a quick
Yeah.
comment. I saw in some of the questions earlier, people had queries on what is PPP forgiveness and how much of that can be used, etc. One resource is a program that SCORE, SBDC, and the SBA have put on every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, 2 to 5. They provide real-time mentoring. And one of the key topics is the PPP loan and the EIDL loan, and everyone brings their specific situation, and we try to get it answered right over the chat function. So
is there a link for that?
Yes, there is a link. I can send it to you later on.
Yeah, if you send it to me, I'll make sure that everybody in this call gets that.
Okay.
I am continuing the series on making your comeback bigger than your setback. I put the link in there for the registration link for Zoom. We had like 20 people last week, so it's growing. Tonight I'm going to talk about sales and what's going to change with sales going forward post COVID-19. So thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
And Pete, thank you for putting your event, Friends of Pete, that takes place Thursday, and that's also through Zoom. And Pete has put that information on the chat as well. Anybody else? Any further announcement?
Yeah, if anyone has any questions about, the PPP loan, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help answer any questions I can. I left my phone number and my email there.
Thank you, Matt. So Kelly, I forgot to ask you this question when you finish presenting. As you know, we ask this question to all the 1 Million Cup presenters. So how can we as a community support you further?
Listen, I'm always open, obviously, to new ideas and any thoughts that you have that you want to share with us. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or patkelly1994@gmail. I think giving us an opportunity, this is a great example, and what happened with the chocolate in our sales when COVID first hit. For those of us on the call who are old enough to remember the Brett commercial. I'll tell two friends and you'll tell two friends and they'll tell two friends. So becoming familiar with us, trying our chocolate, having an opportunity to taste it, and then sharing it as something that you love. Like word of mouth is definitely the best way to grow the business.
Thank you. We certainly would do that. And another thing, Kelly, you are now a 1 Million Cup alum, right? You presented, you're an alum. So for those of you that presented in the past, like Sam did as well, I know it has been through the Zoom, but you guys have a 1 Million Cup coffee mug, with your name on it. It's just sitting in my office right now. So, but once I get in there, I'll make sure that, that you all, get those mugs. Pretty handy.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if there is no other questions or any announcement, we'll have another session next Wednesday, and we will make sure that this video recording along with the chat will go out, let's say by tomorrow. Julia would get that out. And thank you for joining us this morning, and have a wonderful day.